Let me tell you something real, raw, and unapologetic. He didn't think about the woman who stayed up crying for him. He didn't miss the woman who gave him her heart. He didn't see her when she was still soft, still loyal, still believing. But the day she stopped missing him, the day she stopped checking her phone, the day she walked past his memory like it never mattered, that's the day he felt the emptiness. Because a man never misses the woman who loves him. He misses the one who no longer needs him. So ladies, stop wondering if he thinks of you. Because the truth is, he only starts thinking when you stop caring. This is not about revenge. It's about reclaiming your power. He doesn't miss the chaos. He misses the calm. He doesn't miss the screaming matches, the long texts begging for attention, or the tears that used to roll down her cheeks at 2 a.m. while he slept peacefully, unaware. No. What he misses is the woman who brought peace into his life, the one who laughed at his dumb jokes, who listened without interrupting, who healed him even when she was bleeding herself. And when she's gone, truly gone, it's not the drama that echoes in his mind, it's the silence. The soft, nurturing energy she used to carry so effortlessly, the kind that made his house feel like a home, his worst day feel manageable, his chaos feel calm. Let's break something down right now. Men don't chase peace when they have it. They only crave it when it's taken away. Think about this. In the middle of his stress, when everything was going wrong, his job was failing, his friendships were falling apart, he was lost in his own ego. She was the only one who stayed, not because he was perfect, but because she believed in him more than he believed in himself. She kept showing up, packing his lunch when she had her own dreams on pause, reminding him who he is when the world was tearing him down, smiling through her exhaustion just so he wouldn't carry the weight alone. She was his peace, and he didn't notice. Because people often mistake consistency for boring. They crave chaos because they've mistaken adrenaline for love. And by the time he realizes what she truly gave him, it's too late. A woman's peace isn't loud. It doesn't come with fireworks or fancy lines. Her peace is in the way she gently looks at you when you're failing. The way she stays up to make sure you eat. The way she hugs you when you've messed up, but says, "We'll figure it out." That's not weakness. That's power. But when that peace is gone, it's irreplaceable. Let me give you a simple daily life example. Imagine you have a favorite cup of coffee every morning. It's warm, it's comforting, it gets you through the chaos of your day. One morning, it's gone. You try another brand, too bitter. Another cup, too cold. You realize what made that coffee so special wasn't just the flavor. It was how it felt. That's what he feels when he tries to replace a peaceful woman with 1,000 distractions. The gym, the boys, the bar, the late night texting with new girls. But nothing feels like her. And that's the punch in the gut. That's when the regret hits. When you realize the one who never raised her voice could break you in silence. Peace is not weakness. Peace is not submission. Peace is rare. A woman who offers peace is not trying to impress, she's trying to build. And when a man loses that, the world suddenly feels louder, colder, more exhausting. The bed feels bigger, the food tastes dull, the conversations feel shallow. Because what he misses now isn't her face, it's the feeling she gave him. It's the absence of noise, the comfort in chaos, the way she made him feel like no matter what, it was going to be okay. And here's the most mind-blowing truth. Men don't always miss the best-looking woman. They miss the one who brought them peace. So when she stops texting, when she stops trying, when she starts glowing without him, that's when his nights get long, his soul feels restless, and suddenly he understands. The woman he ignored wasn't loud, but she was everything. And now, she's gone. And he can finally hear what silence sounds like. There's something undeniably powerful about a woman who doesn't reveal everything. A woman who doesn't update her every move, doesn't overshare, doesn't lay all her emotions out like an open book for anyone to flip through. There's an aura in that silence, a magnetism in that mystery. You see, mystery doesn't mean being secretive or playing games. It means having depth that not everyone gets access to. And that drives a man wild. Because when a woman stops explaining herself, stops chasing validation, stops broadcasting her worth, suddenly everyone wants to know what she's hiding. Let me break it down. We are in a generation where everything is posted, liked, and exposed within seconds. Where people confuse attention with affection and presence with value. But the woman who chooses to be unseen, unheard, unfazed, she becomes unforgettable. Why? Because not knowing everything about her becomes the obsession. Imagine this. He's used to women who flood his inbox, who double text, who announce every outfit, every meal, every emotion on social media. But then there's you. You don't post your sadness. You don't announce your success. You just move. Quietly, gracefully, purposefully. He checks your stories, nothing. He scrolls your feed, no updates. He hears about your glow up from someone else, and now he's curious. He's unsettled. Because he doesn't know if you're broken or blooming, and the not knowing drives him crazy. Mystery is like perfume. You don't have to spray it everywhere. A few subtle notes in the air will make heads turn and hearts chase. That's the power of the woman who doesn't overshare. Here's a simple daily example. Ever watch a movie trailer that reveals everything? You lose the thrill. You already know what's going to happen. But when a trailer gives just enough, a glimpse, a whisper, a shadow, you're hooked. You need to see more. That's how magnetic mystery is. The woman who shows just enough to intrigue, but not enough to be figured out. She becomes the movie he keeps replaying in his mind. And it's not just about romantic attention. It's about power, emotional power, social power. The woman who keeps a piece of herself for herself commands respect. She walks into a room and people feel her presence. Not because she's loud, but because she carries the unknown. They can't label her. They can't box her in. And people fear what they can't control. A mysterious woman doesn't speak to impress. She speaks to express, and only when necessary. She doesn't try to fix people. She lets them meet her at her level. She doesn't beg to be understood. She becomes so rooted in herself that those who are meant to align with her will, and those who don't, they'll spend the rest of their lives wondering what they lost. Let me give you another real-life example. Ever met someone at a party who didn't talk much, but when they did, every word hit like thunder? You spend days thinking about what they said, how they said it, what they meant. what they meant, and what they say to you. Say it. That's what a mysterious woman does. Her silence has weight. Her words have value. Her presence lingers long after she's left the room. She's not cold. She's not arrogant. She's just selective. And that scares people. Because we live in a world addicted to instant gratification. But mystery? Mystery takes patience. Mystery makes you earn it. And when you do, you realize that what you thought was silence was actually strategy. What you assumed was distance was her choosing her peace over your chaos. Men fall for beauty, but they chase mystery. They think about her when she's not around, imagine scenarios that never happened, replay conversations that were too short. Not because she was the loudest, but because she was the one they never figured out. The one who had layers. The one who had secrets, not scandals. The one who wasn't everywhere, but stayed here, etched in their memory. Silence isn't weakness. Silence is a strategy. The most dangerous shift in any relationship happens not when she yells, not when she cries, not even when she begs. It happens when she goes silent. That silence is not emptiness. It's full of power. It screams, I'm done explaining. It roars, I have reclaimed my worth. And the moment a woman who once gave everything without holding back suddenly goes still, that's when everything shifts. That's when the man realizes the gravity of what he lost. Power doesn't always announce itself with noise. Sometimes it arrives wrapped in peace. Think of a storm before the winds howl and the rain crashes down. There's that eerie silence. That's not peace. That's a warning. A woman's silence is no different. It means the emotional storm inside her has passed. And now she's focused on herself, on her healing, on her next chapter. Let me give you a daily life example. Ever had your phone battery die when you needed it most? You ignored the 10% warning, the 5%, and suddenly, black screen, silence. And now, you're desperate. Trying to restart, recharge, reconnect. That's exactly how it feels when a man keeps ignoring the emotional warnings, the subtle signs, the hurt in her eyes, the shift in her tone, and suddenly, she's silent. Gone. Detached. And now, he's desperate. But the power, it has already shifted. You see, when a woman stops responding, she starts rising. The man who once controlled the rhythm of her emotions now finds himself chasing an echo. Her silence starts making noise in his mind. He wonders where she went, what she's thinking, who she's with, and that mystery, that's where the shift happens. Because now he's no longer the center of her world. And he feels it deeply. This is why silence is feared. Because it forces people to sit with themselves. There's no back and forth, no drama, no argument to win, just reflection, guilt, realization. And when a woman gets to the point where she no longer needs to talk about it, it means she has healed from it, grown from it, and walked away from it mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Imagine being in a room with someone who used to fill the space with light, laughter, questions, and concern, and now she's just sitting there, unreadable. That silence is deafening. It's not passive-aggressive, it's empowered. It says, you no longer have the privilege to disturb my peace. Think about lions. They don't roar every time they hunt. They move silently, strategically. And when they strike, it's game over. That's how a powerful woman operates. She observes. She listens. She lets you think you're winning. And then one day, she's gone. Not blocked, not begging, not angry, just gone. And now, you're the one searching for closure. Another example. In a chess game, the queen doesn't need to speak to dominate. She just moves. And every time she moves, the board changes. The energy changes. That's what happens when a woman stops talking and starts evolving. Her silence becomes her move. Her peace becomes her play. Her absence becomes the lesson. This is why people panic when the woman they mistook for weak suddenly becomes quiet. Because she's no longer trying to be understood. She's no longer available for emotional labor. She's no longer auditioning for the love she deserves. She knows her value now. And that's a power shift no man can ignore. You want to know the real mic drop moment? When he finally texts, "I miss you," and she doesn't respond. Not out of spite, but out of evolution. Because once she found peace in her own silence, she no longer needed his noise to feel whole. You can sleep next to someone and feel like you're 1,000 miles apart. You can talk every day and still feel like you're completely alone. That's the pain of emotional absence. It's invisible, but it echoes louder than a slammed door. It's the silence in the middle of a conversation. It's the hollow, "I'm fine," when everything is falling apart. It thrives in closeness. And when a woman starts to feel that empty space growing between her and someone she once poured her soul into, something inside her begins to shift. Not loudly, not violently, but permanently. When a woman gives her heart, she gives it all. Her laughter, her secrets, her loyalty, her energy. And when she starts to feel unheard, unseen, or unvalued, her soul begins to shut down. Slowly, she'll still smile, she'll still text back, she might even laugh at your jokes, but deep down, she's drifting, emotionally packing her bags. Because emotional distance doesn't begin with a fight, it begins with neglect, with one-sided conversations, with unanswered calls, with the feeling that no matter what she says, it doesn't matter. And when she starts to believe her absence won't make a difference, she stops trying to be present. Let me paint it with a real-world example. Imagine sitting in a room full of people, all laughing, talking, connecting, and yet you feel like a ghost. No one notices, no one looks. That's what emotional absence feels like in love. You're there, but you're not there. And the worst part, they don't even realize they've already lost you. And here's the truth most people don't want to hear. Physical presence means nothing without emotional investment. Being in the same house, the same bed, the same room. It's irrelevant if your soul doesn't feel safe, seen, and heard. A man can touch your body every night and still be miles away from touching your heart. And the day a woman realizes she's emotionally alone, she starts creating her own peace, one that doesn't depend on his presence. Let me give you another example. Think about an old favorite song, one you used to play on repeat. You knew every word, every beat. But one day, it stops hitting the same. The lyrics didn't change, you changed. That's what happens when emotional absence creeps in. She hears his voice, but it doesn't move her. She sees his texts, but they don't ignite her. He's around, but he's not with her. And so she learns how to live without feeling anything at all. And that emotional void, it speaks louder than shouting, louder than crying, louder than crawl, louder than bleeding. It speaks louder than shouting because it's not anger, it's indifference. And that scares a man more than anything. When she no longer reacts, when she no longer checks, when she stops caring where he is, what he's doing, or who he's doing it with, that's when the realization crashes in. He didn't lose her when she walked away. He lost her when she stopped feeling his absence because she already got used to him not being there, even when he was right beside her. Think of a plant. You can water it every day, but if the sunlight doesn't touch it, it still dies. That's love without emotional connection. And when the woman begins to wither in silence, when she starts thriving in solitude, that's when he finally sees her glow. But by then, it's not for him anymore. It's for the version of her that rose from that emotional starvation and bloomed without needing his sunshine. When a woman emotionally checks out, everything changes. She no longer waits for his validation. She no longer explains her silence. She just builds a life so full, so free, so fierce, that even if he stands right next to her, he'll feel like he's on the outside looking in, unbothered. He's the new powerful. It's not about being cold or heartless. It's about being centered, grounded, unshakable. A woman who is unbothered doesn't need to prove her worth. She doesn't chase. She doesn't beg. And she certainly doesn't break down just because someone couldn't see her value. She knows who she is. And that knowing, that energy, it's magnetic. Because nothing draws attention like the one who doesn't seek it. When a woman becomes unbothered, it's because she's done choosing chaos over clarity. She's done reacting to every insult, every mood swing, every cold shoulder. Instead of matching their energy, she protects her own. And that calm, composed presence becomes the mystery, the kind that makes people wonder, why isn't she affected? And that wondering, that's power. Because when you stop explaining yourself to people who never cared to understand you, you stop shrinking to fit in rooms you were never meant to be in. Let's take a simple daily example. Imagine walking into a room wearing a bright red dress. Everyone stares. Some love it, some whisper, some judge. But you walk like it's just another Tuesday. No adjusting, no explaining, no shrinking. That's unbothered. It's the quiet confidence that says, I didn't come here to be liked, I came here to be hum. And guess what? The very people who whispered now want to know who you are. Unbothered doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you've mastered your response. A woman who doesn't flinch at provocation, who doesn't entertain drama, who doesn't fall apart when someone walks away, is the woman everyone wants, but few can handle. Because peace is rare. And people always crave what they can't control. That's the irony. When you care less about what they think, they start thinking about you more. Here's another example. Remember those group chats where someone leaves and suddenly everyone's talking about them? That's life. The moment you detach, people notice. Not when you scream, not when you explain, when you exit. Quietly, calmly, unbothered. That silence, it creates more noise than your words ever could. And the man who once thought he had you wrapped around his ego suddenly realizes he was never holding you. He was just holding your attention. And now that your attention is gone, so is his power. Unbothered means you stop watering dead plants. You stop replaying conversations in your head, trying to figure out where it went wrong. Instead, you reclaim your time, your space, your soul. And that shift in energy, it radiates. People start to feel it. They see you glowing differently. They see you walking with purpose. They feel the fire in your silence. It's like walking into a store where nothing has a price tag. You're intrigued, right? You start wondering if you can even afford it. That's how an unbothered woman moves. No labels, no need to declare her worth. She's not easy to access, and that scarcity makes her unforgettable. Because true luxury doesn't scream, it whispers. And so does real confidence. And when the man who once took her for granted sees her shining without his presence, it hits different. Because the love she used to give freely now belongs to herself. The messages she used to write, the apologies she used to craft, the tears she used to cry, all redirected, all invested inward. She is no longer on the clearance rack of someone's indecision. She's the headline of her own life. And that unapologetic freedom, that divine detachment, that's what makes her irresistible. She doesn't block, she doesn't bash, she doesn't chase. She just glows. And that glow comes from deep peace. The kind that only arrives when you stop trying to prove your place in someone else's chaos. That's what being unbothered looks like. You don't raise your voice, you raise your standards. You don't beg for a seat at the table, you build your own. And suddenly, they're all starving for your attention. He doesn't miss you when you're always available. He misses you when you're no longer within reach. When your energy, your warmth, your love that he once took for granted is gone. He misses the sound of your laughter echoing in his silence. He misses the way you understood his chaos without asking questions. But most of all, he misses the version of you that made him feel seen, even when he couldn't see himself. That version, she's gone. Not because she stopped loving, but because she started realizing she wasn't loved back the same way. Men miss what they can't access anymore. That's human nature. As long as something is right in front of them, they feel entitled to it. They don't value it. They delay responses, take advantage of patience, mock emotions, and confuse presence with permanence. But the moment she pulls away, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, something hits him. A cold, painful clarity. He didn't just lose a woman. He lost her world. A world that revolved around him until it realized he was no longer its son. Think about this. A child doesn't value a toy that's always there. It lies on the floor, untouched. But the moment it's taken away or someone else picks it up, suddenly it becomes special. That's how many men behave with women who love deeply. They don't realize the worth of devotion until it's no longer directed at them. When you stop reaching out, when you stop waiting for calls that never came, when you stop checking his stories or replying to half-hearted texts, that's when he starts wondering, what happened? What happened is, she outgrew the pain of being reachable. He misses you when he sees you laughing without him, when your silence doesn't scream for his attention anymore, when your glow doesn't reflect him, but radiates from within you. He scrolls through your photos and feels something burn, not because he's happy for you, but because he knows those smiles used to be his to witness. And now, someone else might be standing where he once stood. Or maybe no one is. Maybe you chose peace over people. And that too stings. Here's a daily example. Imagine locking your keys inside your house. You didn't care where they were all day, but the moment you can't reach them, they become your obsession. You check the windows, the doors, you try to remember how you left them. That's how regret creeps in. He starts recalling every moment he ignored, every message he left on read, every "I'm okay" that actually meant "fight for me." And now, all he's left with are screenshots and memories. You, the living, evolving, glowing version of you, are no longer available to him. What men often forget is accessibility is a privilege, not a right. Your love, your presence, your vulnerability, these are gifts, not obligations. And once a woman reclaims those gifts for herself, it's a different kind of power. The same things he overlooked, your kindness, your patience, your loyalty, now become treasures he can't replace. Because no one can mirror your energy, your care, your soul. He can meet others, yes, but he'll never find you. And that void, it echoes louder than your voice ever did. You become his unsent message, his unanswered prayer, his what if. You become the memory that walks beside him in silence. The woman he thinks of when love feels empty. And no matter who he's with, there's always a pause, a flicker. Time he hears your favorite song, passes that coffee shop, or smells your perfume in the air, his chest tightens. Because he knows he lost something rare. Not because you weren't enough, but because he couldn't see you while you were standing right in front of him. And now, you're out of reach. Not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually, energetically. And that distance, that permanent inaccessibility, becomes the very thing he misses most. Because the woman who once made herself easy to reach now walks a path he can't follow. And now here you are, no longer begging to be seen, no longer shrinking to fit into the cracks of someone else's comfort. You are no longer the echo that waits for a call back. You've become the silence that commands respect. The storm he didn't prepare for. The woman who rose from the fire he set, not to destroy, but to awaken. And awaken you did. You stepped into the version of yourself that no longer needs closure, no longer needs permission, no longer needs to be chosen, because you finally chose you. Let them wonder. Let them scroll through your silence. Let them sit in the noise of their own regret. Because the moment you stopped reaching was the moment you started rising. You went from asking, "Why doesn't he see my worth?" to declaring, "Anyone who doesn't see my worth doesn't deserve my presence." That's power. That's transformation. And that is freedom. There's something undeniably powerful about a woman who doesn't flinch in the face of rejection. A woman who doesn't chase what walks away. Because here's the truth. Not everyone who walks away is a loss. Some people exit because they were never meant to handle your light. Some people leave so you can finally walk through doors they were blocking. And some were lessons. You know what's even more beautiful than revenge? Reinvention. When your glow up becomes your clapback. When your silence becomes your speech. When your peace becomes your power. That's the kind of energy the world feels without a word spoken. And that energy, that's the legacy of a woman who healed. Let's make one thing clear. You didn't lose him. He lost access to a woman who loved without limits. A woman who stayed when she could have left. Who believed when she had every reason to doubt. He didn't just lose a girlfriend or a lover. He lost a force. He lost home. And now, you are your own home. No more knocking on doors that don't open. No more holding space for people who bring nothing but confusion. Because when a woman learns how to pour into herself the way she used to pour into others, she becomes unstoppable. You've got that kind of energy.